Hey everybody, I wanted to take a little bit of time to record you all a video for your Project 3 feedback, and then I'll be updating the grades very soon, but I think the feedback is probably more important right now than the grades, just so you'll know what to be working on. So start with Brianna. Pull this over here. So I think we covered yours actually pretty good in class. You got a lot of great stuff in here. I think the stuff that impresses me the most is the really intricate finger stuff you have going on, like how they wrap around the desk when he touches it, then he moves it and grabs there too, right? Got a lot of really neat stuff going on there. Got a lot of nice stuff going on in the face. Little things like the way he drags his finger, though. I think getting a little bit more of that friction on the paper, so like that finger feels like it's like rubbing against the paper and dragging along. Excuse me. Yeah, you got some cool stuff here. I think that last pose he goes into, I know we talked about this, but I think it feels like the elbows are hitting good now. It just feels like his hands kind of settle into it a little softer. And so that makes me not sure what it is that's slowing his momentum down on his head, right? So I would expect it to like hit harder in the hands and then sort of spring back up just a little bit. So it's almost like squash into the hands just a little bit and make that impact a little bit richer. Couple of little things throughout, like some really subtle, like you got that little elbow flip thing there, but that's just a rig thing. Maybe how this hand like kind of comes back in a strange arc onto the desk and just kind of slaps there. And so maybe just sort of play around with little things like that. Having said all of that, again, it's a very big piece. Like you are at 40 seconds of finished animation. So it's a very big piece. Polish judiciously. Think of, in terms of cutting together a demo reel, which parts are really your showcase pieces, which are the ones that you really want to show. And then make sure those parts are just bulletproof. Like polishing 40 seconds of animation is a completely different process than polishing 10 seconds that you're going to put in your demo reel and just creating a completely new piece like in that same amount of time, you know. So it's like really how do you want to use your time? I do think that there's some good demo reel work in here. Just finding the best parts of that and showing it off. I really like the ending probably most. Like probably everything from like here on is really my personal favorite parts. Yeah, so I do think something you can work on just a little bit during that section is this IK pop in the elbow. Like it kind of feels like that hand is glued there when he puts it down. And so like, I don't know if I would put it all the way in there because you're kind of putting it down and then just picking it back up again to pick up the paper. So maybe he like, gets close to it and like has his fingers touching it, but maybe he doesn't completely lock his palm to the desk like there. Yeah, cool. This is looking good. Just keep working on it. Another little thing I would say, and this is something you don't really notice until it's time to render. This character is just off frame throughout the entire shot. And then when he leaves again, he just goes just off frame. Depending on your lighting situation, he may be casting shadows that make that obvious. So consider that, like how you move this around. Do you want to move your character completely off frame? Like that way the shadow interaction is a little more realistic. So yeah, overall great work. Hannah, this is one is slightly better. And it also is newer, so I'm just going to assume that's the one you're wanting to use. So short technical note. I think that probably what happened is you opened up this file and the eyes were not rendering correctly. And so you put that eye texture on that object. What's actually going on is that object should be transparent, and the object underneath it, there's two spheres that are kind of on top of each other, and the object underneath it is the one that needs the material. I don't have that open anymore. So I think that's what's happening. That's why it looks like the eyes are kind of on the surface there. I would just kind of fix that. I like what you have going on here. All this little intricate stuff with the hand opening the letter looks really good. You got a strange little elbow pop. There's a couple little elbow things. Hey, it's going to be about 15, 20 minutes. Okay, right. Sorry, somebody at my door. So you got a little elbow pop right there. And so I would just kind of work with that a little bit to clean that up. I really like a lot of what you have going on here, though. And yeah. I think some of the motions are a little linear. So, for example, right there, that first motion he does there, right? He goes sort of very linearly from pose A to pose B. And I think what you need to do is put a breakdown in there that sort of changes, maybe drag his head down, maybe dip his head a little bit to get an interesting arc through there. Just a lot of different little things you can do to kind of change up the way he goes from pose A to pose B, make it a little bit more interesting, give it a little bit more style. So, and I think that there's a few spots like that, but I also know you kind of restarted this one close to the end there. So the fact that you got to where you did is pretty impressive. I would do a little bit like when you spring up to this. I think we need to feel that in like the hips too. The hips are feeling kind of stationary through a lot of this. We need those really subtle hip shifts. And he kind of hits this pose, and all of his body is completely frozen. And then it's only in his head that we get this movement, right? So I think you need a little bit of keep alive on the body as well. You got some really great emotion stuff going on in here. Yeah, so I love that. That's funny. Awesome. So let's move on here. Jeff. Yeah, I'm going to have to draw on this one, I think. Let me open this up. There we go. So, something I notice in here is a couple of things in terms of weight. Like, make sure you are getting that foot down before, like, at least a frame or two before the weight hits at the bottom, right? So, kind of look at, like, just the up and down motion on the hips and on the foot. They both reach their lowest point on the same frame. And really what you want is you want that foot to feel like it reaches that contact point a frame or two earlier, because that's why the hips hit their lowest point. It's because the foot's pushing back, right? So the foot has to make contact and then start pushing against the ground to slow the deceleration or to slow the descent of the hips, right? So I think that needs a little bit of work on when those feet contact. Like here's another one, like they all kind of hit the bottom at the same time. On this one, she's kind of doing this, balancing this on one leg. So I mean, you could probably just shift over and be okay, right? I notice a couple of little things here, and this is the one that kind of gets me the most. Is like she goes from here to here, in sort of a linear way. Right? It's like Maya does most of the work there, it seems like. And so what I think you need to do is, like, you need some thought about lead and follow. Maybe as she starts moving here, I always divide this up into the body masses, right? She has, let me go back here. So she's here. She has this hip mass. Let's go ahead and go up here to red. So she has this mass on her hips. She has the chest, like, cavity, the ribs, right? And then the head, right? And those are all connected. And then she has her feet, right? So what happens is, all of that's just kind of blending across together. I think you need to make one move first, right? So maybe make this foot go first, because she's got to get that foot out there to catch her, right? So maybe what happens here, she sticks that foot out there like that. and then the hips are kind of being pulled by that. Maybe the upper body is dragging behind, and then the head is kind of leaning forward a little bit. Maybe you get something like this, right? And so what that's going to give you is a line of action that kind of curves through this, right? And that's a little bit stronger of a pose. It's also going to make more sense with the weight because her hips have to slow down, and right now they stop moving before her foot is even on the ground, right? So that foot needs to be well contacted already, maybe even flat there already, so it can slow down her descent toward this wall, or she's just going to face plant into that thing, right? So you really got to kind of tweak with that. Got a couple of things here where, although I really like what you have going on here with this and this line of action, that hip feels broken. So I think that this needs to kind of flow down this way with her knee, right? I think that'll kind of clean up this like awkward corner there. It feels like her hip's dislocating, right? Something else to kind of look at in this transition from here over is the path her foot takes. And if we were to track that foot, I bet it would be a straight line, right? It kind of just goes straight over there. What would really happen is it would probably dip through here, go up, and then like hit right there, or something like that. So the fact that it's going in a straight line is just a symptom of it being an IK. So kind of work around with that a little bit. And then I think you got some neat stuff here with this throw. I would continue that overlapping action, like how you get this in this hand. Maybe continue that in her other hand, right? So like when it goes around her back there, it kind of flips out past her right here, right? So she gets this hand pose like that. So just a little bit more follow through in that. But I think the weight's looking good. You're just getting some sort of uncomfortable hip stuff happening here. Yeah, cool. This is looking good. I think it's really close. Just keep sort of working on it. So good. Clues on that. Where are we at now? Catherine. Better. Let's look at the better one. Oh, yeah. This one.
And the main part, they have the programming, they have like tools division and games division, like on ground.
Yeah. So I think my notes on this are really just a few. Like you got a lot of really nice, appealing looking stuff. I love the slide down here, and the little bump. I think you got a few things that kind of either happen a little too fast or freeze a little too much. I think this right here, how it gets from here to here, like I don't really understand the physics of that, right? It kind of looks like he has his hand on the branch, but it doesn't really feel like that's what pushes him. So you could probably make that happen. He reaches around, grabs the branch, and like twists his upper body that way. But it still happens over like 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 4 or 5 frames, and it just goes a little fast. I like he's sliding down there. Like this looks good. I'll probably like get one of these feet out there to catch himself a little early. So maybe here he would like kind of get that foot out there on the rock to sort of slow himself down, because right now it just seems like friction is the only thing slowing him down. Let his foot kind of catch him to slow him down. Think about the way we contact the ground. Right now the entire bottom of the foot lays down flatly right there, right? So really what may happen is he maybe would come in here like this and touch with his toe, and then like sort of wrap his toe around it, right? Maybe something like that, and then flatten his heel on down flat with that, or something like that. Just a little bit more thought about how that foot contacts and makes. So I like the shake you get going on here. The only thing I have a problem with is when he goes right here, and it's just a little too perfect. Like he still needs some real subtle sways in his hips as he's moving there, and his body and his upper body reacting to it. Like the shiver in his legs would make his whole body move a little bit more anyway. And then my last note kind of does it here too. Kind of hits there, and he's just a little too still. And so this transition to here, that just feels a little easy, right? So maybe what you would do is dip him a little bit. Maybe his, we got, again, these three masses. You're always going to be talking about these. We dip here a little bit with this mass, and maybe this one dips too. And so what you end up with is pushing those two closer together. You get a curl, right, leading with the head, right? So you get like something a little bit more like that in his breakdown. And then that way when you push on up into this, previously his line of action was this, you could push this line of action to be more like this, right? So a little bit more like this shape, right? And then right here, he just kind of, like, nothing is really keeping him contacted there, so that just feels like a timing on the feet thing. It really reads to me like he's just slipping and sliding around there, and that was intentional, that you want him to look like he like flails off and just sort of falls forward. I actually think that's working a little bit more. Consider if that's how you want him to leave. It's a very different attitude than how she leaves, right? I think we talked about it too, like right there, like that leg just does not feel. I feel like it's her arc of how she goes out of frame feels like that, right? Like it's like she's going out and then she like dips down right outside of frame. And so I think we need to work on that arc a little bit. To me, I think she almost needs to do like dun like that, like pop out. It's a little bit more work, but a little bit more confident too, right? And having him sort of like flail out just is a nice contrast piece to that. Overall, this is turning into a really nice piece. I'm looking forward to seeing how this presents in the demo reel. Great job. Okay. I actually just got through giving you a critique on your video here.
Okay.
Hold on one second. Let me see. This may be a good time to pause. Catherine.
If you're busy,
Yeah.
I can come back another time.
Let's go ahead and do it now. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the video right here, and we'll pick it up with Kaylee in just a few minutes. Thanks.